Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, it's Maddie here. Now Mythical Island just released. As I'm recording this, it's 1:40 a.m. I just opened 100 packs of Mythical Island, and we're going to do basically a review of all of the new cards. There's 80 total brand new cards in the set, but there are 68 unique cards, not including all of these special rares. So we're going to go through all of them, not every single card per se, but all of the fully evolved Pokemon, all of the Pokemon that are necessarily relevant. So let's go ahead and let's just start it off. First card we're going to take a look at is the new Executor, not EX, just the basic Executor. 130 HP, it has 1 attack for 1 grass, 3 colorless, psychic, 80 plus, 20 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. This is really interesting. I'm not sure if it's going to be really particularly useful. It's interesting with the new Superior. We'll see that card in a little bit, but I think for the most part, if you're playing Executor EX, you're probably just going to be playing Executor. If you wanted a third copy of a basic Executor in your deck, I think the other one from Genetic Apex is probably a little bit better just because it only has an attack cost of 1. However, this attack, certainly very interesting, has a lot of big one-hit KO potential, and again, could see play with the new Superior card and its effect. So I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. All right, next up, we're going to see one of the new EX Pokemon, which is Celebi EX. It's a basic Grass EX Pokemon, 130 HP. It has 1 attack for Grass and a colorless, powerful Bloom. 50, flip a coin for each energy attached to this Pokemon. This attack does 50 damage for each heads. Again, a card that is kind of meant to be played with the new Superior card. This is very interesting. It's very, very interesting indeed. Is it going to be good? I think it could be good. Is it great? I don't think it's too great. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this a 7, maybe an 8 out of 10. It's not as good as Pikachu, that is for sure, but certainly a very interesting card. We're going to have a lot of fun playing Celebi. All right, and here it is, the new Superior card. This is kind of a new archetype, a new engine, basically. And Superior is a pretty cool Stage 1 basic non-EX Pokemon, 110 HP, but it's got this great ability here, Jungle Totem. For each grass energy attached to your Pokemon, provides 2 grass energies, and this effect does not stack. So you can only have 1 Superior on your bench. You can't have multiple Superiors and exponentially increase the energy attached. But as we can see here, there's going to be a lot of grass Pokemon in the set that require a lot of energy costs, or like Celebi, like we just saw. The more energies technically that are attached to that Celebi, the more coins you get to flip to determine how many more, how much more damage you do. So 2 energies on Celebi to use the attack, but if we have Superior in play, we flip 4 coins, potentially dealing 200 damage, basically just like Zapdos EX, but for only 2 energy. So very interesting. This is a really, really cool card. I'm not exactly sure if this is going to make grass decks the top of the meta, but either way, very, very interesting. I'm going to give this card a 8 out of 10. Next up is Shinotic with Flickering Spores, 2 grass energies. It is a Stage 1 Pokemon. 50 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. Kind of a meme Pokemon. I don't think it's going to be very good. I think there's a lot of better options, but could be fun in a particular stall/control deck. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Next up is Delmise, 100 HP basic grass type Pokemon. This card makes a little bit more sense now in context now that we know what Superior does. 1 grass type energy, 20 damage, but if that has 3 extra energies attached to it, this attack does 70 damage. Again, with Superior, all we need is 2 energies on Delmise, and we're hitting for 90 damage on a basic Pokemon with 100 HP. People thought this card was going to be pretty bad, but again, with the context with Superior, I think this card is actually pretty decent, and it's actually going to see quite a bit of play in the Superior archetype. I'm actually going to give Delmise a 7 out of 10. All right, getting into the Fire-type Pokemon here, Rapidash. We've seen Rapidash before. The other one is really good in the Blaine stack, but this card will, of course, work with Blaine as well. 100 HP, Stage 1 Pokemon. This has an attack cost of 2, Rising Lunge. 40 damage, flip a coin if heads, it does 60 more damage, plus the Blaines, the 30 damage for Blaines. This card has the potential to do 130 damage for only 2 energies. I think it's pretty good. Is it better than the other one? In a vacuum, it could be better. It's a little bit less consistent, but 2 for 100, 130 maybe? I don't know. I'm going to give this card a 6 out of 10. All right, onto the Volcarona, the new Volcarona Holo card here. Stage 1 Pokemon, 120 HP, 3 energies, Volcanic Ash. Discard 2 energies from this Pokemon, and you can do 80 damage to any one of your opponent's Pokemon, including the bench. This card is pretty powerful. However, are we really going to be running this with Moltres? Are we going to be playing this, in place of a Charizard, of an Arcanine, things like that? It's interesting. It actually has a lot of potential, and I think that it could be pretty decent. I think there's actually quite a bit of room in those Charizard decks, as we've seen playing with Arcanine. This could be another option there. I'm going to give this card a 6 out of 10. Next up is Salazzle, Stage 1 Pokemon, only 80 HP, attack cost of only 1 energy, and it does Poison Claws, 30 damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. I don't really see where this card is going to be kind of played. It's kind of just a flavor card thrown into the set. I'm going to give this card a 3 out of 10. All right, and we have the new Magmar for 80 HP on a basic Pokemon, 2 fire energies, it does 80 damage, but you discard 2 energies from this Pokemon. Kind of an awkward card here. I don't know if there's really a lot of opportunities where you're going to want to run Magmar. Yes, you can play it in lanes and you can boost the damage of this attack by 30, but that gets to 110. Kind of an awkward number. You're not really one-hit KOing anything, and I think you would much rather just play the Ninetales in that particular list. So Magmar, it's okay. I don't know exactly why we would play it per se. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. All right, moving on to the Water-type Pokemon. The first one we're going to take a look at is actually the only card that I did not get in the 100 packs that I opened, and that is the new Gyarados EX. And Gyarados EX has one really cool attack for 4 energies, 3 water, and a colorless energy. Does 140 damage, and this effect is really interesting. Discard a random energy from among the energy attached to all Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. So this could go positive for you, could go negative for you, but doing 140 damage for 4 energies is pretty big. For context, Starmie does 90 damage for 2 energies, so higher attack cost on a otherwise stronger stage 1 Pokemon, but 140 damage is a lot. That's one hit KOing a lot of Pokemon in the game. The new Vaporeon is out to move some of those energies around. This isn't that bad. I think that we could build some pretty strong Gyarados decks. I'm going to give this card a 7. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. All right, and here is the new Vaporeon. We've already seen this card before. As long as you would like during your turn, you may move a water energy from one of your benched water Pokemon to your active water Pokemon. This is a really strong ability. The games are really quick. I think a lot of people are a little contentious as to how good Vaporeon is going to be, but again, we have Blastoise in the meta, we do have Gyarados now, we have Articuno, we have Starmie. There's a lot of great water-type EX Pokemon. We also have Misty, so for that fact, I think in a vacuum, this card, I'd maybe give it a 5 or a 6 out of 10 just because of the pace of Pokemon TCG Pocket, but I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 just because I do think that it will be relevant in a lot of different archetypes. Water-related archetypes, that is. Next, we have Lumineon, 80 HP on a stage 1 water type Pokemon, 2 energies, Aqua Liner. This attack does 50 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon per se, so only the bench, but 2 energies, 50 snipe, it's pretty good. Again, there's so many good water type Pokemon options, I just don't really see where we're ever going to be running Lumineon. I'm going to give Lumineon a 3 out of 10. I don't think this card's ever really going to see much play. Next up, we have Dreadnought, 130 HP, another stage 1 water-type Pokemon. 3 water energies, we do Crunch, 70 damage, flip a coin. If heads, discard a random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. I don't love this card. I just don't really see any reason to ever play it. 130 HP on a stage 1 is quite a lot for a single prize Pokemon. But, I mean, again, are we really going to be choosing to play this over anything else? I think it's better than Lumineon. Let's give it a 4 out of 10. All right, next up, we have Cramorant, basic water Pokemon, 80 HP, 3 energy attack cost, dive, 60 damage, flip a coin. If heads during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage and effects of attacks done to this Pokemon. Pretty good, but Sabrina exists. 3 energies is a lot on a basic Pokemon with 80 HP, so I'm going to give Cramorant a 4 out of 10. It's not very good. All right, and now onto the Electric-type Pokemon. We actually have a new Raichu, a new holographic non-EX Raichu. There was some speculation that this would be an EX card. It is not. We have another holographic 1 prize Raichu, 120 HP, 3 electric energies in its attack cost, 60 damage. This attack also does 20 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So very, very different. This is really quite interesting. I actually think that in a vacuum, it's not as good as the other Raichu, which does 140 damage for 3 energies. But again, we do have Lieutenant Surge, we do have Magneton. There's a lot of support for Raichu in general, and I think this could be a really cool option to kind of sprinkle in to other decks. So you can play 2 copies of both Raichus if you really wanted to, right? There's no limitation, but I think maybe playing 1 or 2 of each of these in the particular Raichu archetype could open up a lot of avenues for this particular deck list and this archetype. I do like this Raichu. I don't think it's as good as the other Raichu. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Next, we have Electabuzz, 70 HP, basic Pokemon, 2 electric energies, Thunder Spear. This attack does 40 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. It's not too bad. It's, I think, a little bit better than Zebstrika. So it's a basic Pokemon, has less HP, but 2 energies in this attack cost. I think this could fill the place for Zebstrika. It could be another flavor card to throw into Pikachu EX. I quite like it, actually. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Next up, we have Galvantula. Stage 1 Electric-type Pokemon, only 80 HP for a Stage 1 Pokemon, but we have Electroweb, 2 electric energies, 70 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon cannot retreat. It is what it is. Again, I just don't really understand why we would ever be playing Galvantula above other Electric-type cards. I can't see a use for this card. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. All right, next we have the new Dedenne, basic Electric-type Pokemon, only 60 HP, but an attack of only 1 energy. Only does 10 damage as well. However, this effect of this attack is hilarious. Flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now Paralyzed. Okay, so this is Pincurchin, just with 1 less energy in its attack cost, a little bit less HP, and 20 less damage on the attack. This is really, really interesting. This card is crazy, the fact that you can use this right from the get-go. Only 1 energy, you can do it on your first turn. It's a basic Pokemon. I think this card is actually going to see a lot of play in a lot of really annoying decks, and honestly, I think the effect is good enough to where you could kind of just play it in basically any electro-type deck, and I think it is gonna have its value. It only has a retreat cost of 1, so you got to keep that in mind as well. I do like this card. I really, really do. I think that it's gonna see quite a bit of play, even though we maybe don't want it to see play. It will, and it's gonna be pretty annoying. You're gonna see it a lot. You're gonna hate this card. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. All right, now we've actually seen this card before. This is just the normal holographic version of the special Illustrator art Mew that you unlocked basically previously by completing the Kanto Pokedex. So we've seen this card before, 60 HP basic, Psy Report, 20 damage, your opponent reveals their hand. This card never really saw play, it's been out, so there's nothing new per se, but I'm just gonna give it a 3 out of 10, very average. It's a card, you know, we're not gonna play it. All right, and next up we have Mew EX. This is the card that everybody is looking forward to, the poster child of this entire booster pack. Basic Psychic Pokemon, 130 HP. We have Psy Shot, 1 Psychic energy for 20 damage, and then we have Genome Hacking, 3 colorless energies. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack, ignoring the energy attack cost as long as you have the 3 energies on Mew. Extraordinarily good. I think this is going to be one of the best cards in the game, if not the best card in the game for the next month or so until maybe the new cards come out. But yeah, Mew EX, very, very strong. It's very good. I think we're going to see this card all over the place, and you're going to be able to play it in a lot of different decks. So I'm going to give this card a 9 out of 10. Very versatile, very powerful. Next up, we have Sigalith. So a basic Psychic type Pokemon, 80 HP, and we have the Spike Draw attack for 1 Psychic Energy, 10 damage, and you draw a card. This is really just a better version of Meowth, which people were already sort of running sometimes in Mewtwo EX. This is a pretty good card. A retreat cost of 1. I don't think it's going to be broken to any extent. I don't think it's absolutely phenomenal, but it is good, and I think that it might be worth playing to some extent. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Next, we have Beheeyem, 90 HP on a Psychic type Pokemon. We have 1 attack here, 1 Psychic Energy on a stage 1, 90 HP. I already said that, I don't know why I said it again. Mind Jack, 10 damage. This attack does 20 more damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So 3 benched Pokemon, this does 70 for 1 energy. It's not terrible. Again, I just don't know if we're really going to have room in most Psychic type decks to be playing this card. You're not going to be living in attack for most things, so it seems okay, but again, why would you ever play this card? I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. All right, we're actually going to be taking a look at this Flabébé. I know it's not a fully evolved Pokemon, but it is actually really quite strong. 40 HP, Psychic type Pokemon, 1 Psychic Energy, Hypnotic Gaze, your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. So this is very similar to Jigglypuff. It's basically the same card as the other Jigglypuff. And for that reason, I figure it's worth a mention. Yeah, this card in a vacuum is actually not terrible. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Next up, we have Florges, the fully evolved version, rather. 120 HP, Psychic type Pokemon. It's a stage 2, 2 Psychic Energies. We have Bloomshine, 80 damage, and heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. Kind of underwhelming, I'm not going to lie. 120 HP is a little bit awkward. You can live hits, right? You're going to be surviving probably 1 attack from a lot of Pokemon. You can invest 2 Psychic Energies in it. Gardevoir exists, but the problem is you're probably going to be playing Gardevoir in a lot of Psychic type decks anyway, so playing another Stage 2 Pokemon is a little bit awkward. Again, I just don't really think this card is going to see much play, at least for now. Could be better in the future, but Florges, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Next up, we have Slurpuff, another kind of flavor card thrown into the set here. Stage 1 Pokemon, 100 HP, 2 energy attack cost, 4 magical shot, just does 60 damage. That's it. That's all this card does. Again, why? Why would we ever play it? This card actually just makes me angry. If you're a Slurpuff fan, I'm sorry. I'm going to give this card a 2 out of 10. All right, now we have another Mankey card. I think this is the 3rd Mankey that we've had in Pokemon TCG Pocket. So basic fighting Pokemon, 50 HP, 1 energy. We have Focused Fist, 50 damage. Flip a coin rather, if tails, this attack does nothing. Very interesting. It doesn't kind of work with the synergy that the promo one does, where it damages itself. That's certainly the one we're always going to be playing in Mankey, so this is interesting. 50 damage potentially, but no, I don't think we're going to play this card. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. And we have the new Primeape here. Stage 1, fighting type Pokemon, 80 HP, 1 energy, does punch, 50. Very average, very, very average. Again, there's just no reason to play this above the other Primeape that could potentially do, I think, 100 damage. So yeah, we're sorry, Primeape. We're not playing this guy. Again, why actually? Why does this card even exist? who knows? I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. And we actually have a new Golem in this set, 160 HP on a stage 2 fighting type Pokemon, 4 energies in this guy's attack cost. We have Guard Press, 120 damage, and during your next turn, during your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. This is actually pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and compare this to going up against Pikachu. Pikachu does 90 damage, you have 160 HP. 90 minus 30 is 60, and you're actually living 2 hits pretty securely against a lot of Pokemon in the game. It's kind of awkward. I know we do have Brock, and Brock can accelerate energies to Golem, but it can't accelerate energies to Geodude or Graveler, so it makes this archetype a little bit awkward, makes Golem a little bit awkward, but not a terrible card, actually. There could be some funny scenarios where this card kind of just rolls over your opponent. You're doing 120 damage for 0 downside. So as long as you can set this card up, we have Potion. This card could do some damage. It could be pretty legit. I'm actually going to give Golem a 7 out of 10. Rather, I'll give it a 6 out of 10, okay? I'm not going crazy here with Golem. And next we have Aerodactyl EX, a card that we already saw, of course. 140 HP on a stage 1, fighting type Pokemon. It has the ability Primeval Law. Your opponent cannot play any Pokemon from their hand to evolve their active Pokemon. It's an effect that can be really interesting. Now, this effect does work while Aerodactyl is just sitting on your bench, so it is providing value even if you're not having it in the active spot. However, I think this ability is a little bit niche. You could throw it in fighting type decks. It could be kind of a disruptive thing that actually comes in handy sometimes for you in the matchups, but it does have an attack, 2 energies, 80 damage. This card isn't super overwhelming, but it's not really that underwhelming either. I just think it's a pretty average card as far as EX Pokemon go. I don't think it's terrible. I really don't. Fighting type, there's not a lot of great fighting type cards, so Aerodactyl probably will see some play in some fighting type archetypes. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Relative to EX Pokemon, that is. Yeah, I'll give it a 5. Let's say 5. 5 out of 10. All right, now we have the new Marshadow, the Pikachu Killer. This is one of the funniest revenge Pokemon in the entire game, and the art is phenomenal. Basic fighting type Pokemon, 80 HP, 2 energies in its attack cost, Revenge. Like I said, a revenge attacker, 40 damage. But if any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack during your opponent's last turn, this attack does 60 more damage. So 100 damage for 2 energies, as long as that effect is in play. But the cool thing about this card is you hit for super effective against Pikachu. So for 2 energies on a basic single price Pokemon, yes, you can one-shot Pikachu EX. So this card, for that fact, is pretty good, but in general, doing 100 damage is pretty strong on a card like this. And as long as you're able to do a little bit of damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, we're able to clean up a lot of KOs with Marshadow. I think it's going to be a staple in a lot of fighting type decks. So Marshadow, very good in general. In a vacuum, though, I'm just going to give it a 7 out of 10, but because we one hit KO Pikachus, I'm going to give it a 8 out of 10, I guess. So 7.5 out of 10, I don't know. And the last fighting type Pokemon, we have Stonejourner. 120 HP on a basic single prize Pokemon is quite strong. The attack is pretty funny here. Mega Kick for 3 fighting energies just does 90 damage. This is interesting. If we had a way to, accurately or consistently accelerate fighting type energies, this card could actually be quite decent. It's just an overall pretty good card. I just don't think I don't know if we have a lot of room for it in our deck. 3 energies is a lot. We don't have a way to put energies on this Pokemon other than just attaching them, and there's probably other Pokemon that we would rather attach to, so I'm going to give Stonejourner a 5 out of 10. Alright, and on to the Dark type Pokemon. We do have a new Coughing and a new Wheezing. I'm going to take a look at the Coughing as well, because this card is pretty relevant. So Coughing, 70 HP, basic Pokemon, 1 Dark type energy. We have Division, doesn't do any damage, but you can put a random Coughing from your deck onto your bench. This is honestly quite strong. I think this is pretty good. I think this is probably going to be the best Coughing for us to play in the Wheezing deck. So I'm going to give Coughing a 6 out of 10. All right, now we have the new Wheezing card, 110 HP, Dark type, stage 1 Pokemon. 2 dark energies on this attack. Smokescreen does 50 damage. During your opponent's next turn, if the defending Pokemon tries to use an attack, your opponent has to flip a coin, and if it's tails, that attack doesn't happen. So a 50-50 chance for our opponent to basically not be able to attack next turn. It's more of a status condition and not so much the immunity effect that some Pokemon have, because unlike those other cards, you can't really Sabrina against Wheezing. It's not going to stop you from flipping tails and not getting that damage off, right? Your attack will still do nothing, even if you Sabrina out the Wheezing. So this effect is actually pretty good. Better than you would think. It's kind of Sabrina-proof or Gust-proof, which is pretty good. I do like Wheezing in this particular sense, but I think a lot of the upside with Wheezing is that you only have to attach 1 energy to it because of Koga. You can basically recycle your Wheezings without kind of going super far negative in the in the energy department, which is why I think it's probably better to play the other Weezing overall. However, this card is not that bad. I just don't think it's worse. I don't think it's better, rather. I think it is worse than the other Weezing that can poison and just do 30 damage for 1 energy. So, very interesting Weezing card. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Can be good, but in my opinion, I would still rather play the old Weezing. Alright, and we have Liepard, Stage 1, Dark-type Pokemon, 90 HP, and we have Slash, 1 energy, 40 damage. Kind of a flavor card again in the set. No reason to play this card really ever in a lot of decks. Just not that good. It's kind of a worse Arbok. I don't know. This is the most underwhelming card I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Liepard is cool, but I don't know. I'm gonna give this card a 2 out of 10. Alright, and now we have Scolipede, 140 HP, Stage 2, Dark-type Pokemon. We have Venoshock. This card might have existed in the official Pokemon TCG, I'm not sure, but Dark and a Colorless, 2 energy attack cost, Venoshock does 70 damage, and if your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned, it does 50 more damage, so 120 total to a poisoned Pokemon for only 2 energies. It is a Stage 2 Pokemon. We have a card from Genetic Apex. We have Muck, a very similar card, but it's a Stage 1. I think that attack cost also is 2. It might be 3 energies. I'm not entirely sure, but I think if we're going to be playing this card, we would still probably rather play Muck, so I'm going to give Scolipede a 4 out of 10. Alright, now the only Dragon-type card in Mythical Island, and that is Dredagon. It is a basic Pokemon, 100 HP, and has the ability Rough Skin. If this Pokemon is in the active spot and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, you do 20 damage to the opponent's active Pokemon. This effect is, again, very meh. You only have 100 HP, so you're going to get KO'd pretty easily. And then we have Dragon Claw for a Fire, a Water, and a Colorless, does 90 damage. Again, I just don't really see any world where we're playing this card. It doesn't have any synergy in a lot of really any other matchups. I just can't think of a reason to play this card. In fact, the more I think about it, it's kind of annoying me. I don't like this card. I don't like Dredagon. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. All right, and now on to the new Pidgeot EX. Very, very cool. I love this card. So, Stage 2 Pokemon, 170 HP. It is a Colorless, and we have an attack for 3 Colorless energy, does Scattering Cyclone, 80 damage, and this attack does 20 more damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So if they have a full bench, that's 60 plus 80, that's 140 for 3 Colorless energies. It's not a phenomenal card in its own right in a vacuum. However, you can technically play this card in any other deck, and we can play the basic Pidgey, the single prize Pidgey from Genetic Apex, which has the Sabrina effect. So we can basically fill our deck with Pidgey, Pidgeotos, and Pidgeots and have a pretty decent kind of flow to our deck while having some sort of value with Pidgeot EX as well. 170 HP is quite a lot. I don't mind this card. I really don't. I just don't think it's super, super good, but I do think that it's actually going to be worth playing. Most of the time, people are going to have Pokemon on their bench. A lot of decks do. And being able to one-hit KO a lot of Pokemon in the format for 3 energies of any type, I think it's actually pretty decent. So I'm going to give this card a 7 out of 10. We'll see exactly where this card falls. Next up is the new Tauros card. I love this card. One of my favorite cards from the set. Basic 100 HP colorless Pokemon. Fighting Tackle. 3 colorless energies. Does 40 damage. Plus 80 more if your opponent's active Pokemon is an EX. So 122 EX Pokemon for 3 colorless energies on a basic single prize Pokemon. This card is really great. It is really, really great. I'm kind of made a short video talking about how this card works really well in conjunction with Mew EX. So it kind of covers the bases. Again, really good against Pikachu as well. I love Tauros. In a vacuum, I think it's just going to be very useful in general. And it's going to be a pretty key card in a lot of different decks. So I'm going to give Tauros an 8 out of 10. All right, and next up, we actually have a new Eevee card. This card is actually kind of crazy. Basic 60 HP and has continuous steps for 1 colorless energy. You flip a coin until you get tails, and this attack does 20 damage for each heads. So this is kind of, and I kind of speculated that we might get a card like this. This is sort of the smaller version of Kangaskhan that we got in Genetic Apex. It's got less HP. Kangaskhan, I think, is 100, so it's interesting. However, again, we have the potential to do a lot of damage with this card. There could be some hilarious moments with Eevee where this thing just pops off on turn 1 and does like 200 damage. I mean, this card could just win you the game outright, which is absolutely crazy. People are going to hate this card, and I'm going to have a really fun time trying to get some really interesting attacks off with Eevee. Overall, I mean, I think it's pretty good. Again, I don't know if there's going to be a reason to play Vaporeon or Jolteon or Flareon. Vaporeon by far is kind of the best version of all of those, but if you're going to be playing Vaporeon, we have a new Eevee that is actually quite good as well. So I'm actually really excited. I think this card is pretty good. I think it actually makes Vaporeon a lot better. And again, you could play this in decks where you're not even playing Vaporeon or Flareon or Jolteon. So Eevee is really, really funny. I love this card. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. All right, now the last Pokemon of the review, we have Chatot, a basic Colorless Pokemon, 60 HP. We have Mimic. Shuffle your hand into your deck and draw a card for each card in your opponent's hand. Now this is an attack and it doesn't do any damage, so it's really, really interesting. For that reason, I don't actually think Chatot is very good. If this was an effect and you could use it once per turn, it would be much different. It would be a much different story. But it being an attack, being a Pokemon with only 60 HP, which means you basically have to leave it into the active spot. There is a scenario where you are going second, it's your first turn, and you can get your Mimic off. You set up your bench, you kind of, eliminate all of the cards in your hand, and if your opponent has 3 or 4 cards, you can basically draw a lot of cards at the end of your turn. So that scenario could be really, really good, but that is really only if this Pokemon isn't going to get KO'd on your opponent's second turn. So interesting for sure. I don't actually think it's terrible. I don't know. I think it gives me interesting vibes. I think mid to late game, this card is almost useless. So yeah, I don't know about Chatot. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's great. All right, now on to the trainer cards. We have Pokemon Flute. This card was leaked beforehand, but it is an item card, and you can put a basic Pokemon from your opponent's discard pile onto their bench. It's pretty niche. People were really overhyping this card with Venusaur. That combo is going to be really interesting, but overall I don't think Poké Flute is going to break the game in any particular extent. I don't think it's a bad card, but again, we only have 20 cards in our deck, so it's one of those cards where, if it's not directly sort of impacting your particular strategy like it would with Venusaur, I don't know why you would really play this card. It could be cool, it could actually be interesting in some scenarios, but overall I don't think it's that good. It's only really good with targeted Gust, and we don't have a lot of that in Pokemon TCG Pocket, so I'm going to give Poké Flute a 4 out of 10. All right, now this one is an absolute doozy. We have Mythical Slab, another item card. Look at the top card of your deck, and if that card is a Psychic Pokemon, put it into your hand. And if it's not a Psychic Pokemon, put it on the bottom of your deck. This card is crazy. This is going to be so good in all Psychic type decks. It's going to make Psychic type archetypes that much better. You can find Mew with it, you can find Mewtwo, you can find Ralts, Kirlia, Gardevoir, you can find any Psychic type Pokemon, basically just like Pokeball, except Pokeball only works for basic type Pokemon, I believe. So this is really strong. This card is this might be the strongest card alongside Mew EX in this entire set. This is going to make Psychic type decks so much more consistent, so much better. And it's crazy that they made this card. It really is. I'm going to give Mythical Slab a 9 out of 10, maybe even a 10 out of 10. I don't know. This card is crazy. It's going to be so good. Wow, I cannot believe this card is in the game. That's crazy. All right, and now we have the supporter that wasn't leaked beforehand, and that is Budding Expeditioner. Yeah. It is a supporter card. Now, this card is hilarious. You can put your Mew EX in the active spot into your hand. So it's like a scoop up net from the official Pokemon TCG. It's like Koga, basically. It's literally Koga, but for Mew EX. And that is pretty phenomenal. Although it's interesting, Mew EX just has a retreat cost of 1, but it does fully heal your Mew EX if you pick it up and put it into your hand. So this is cool. This is a cool card. I think that it's a little bit niche. I think Mew is a card that you're not typically going to be building decks around Mew, so I don't know if you would really play Budding Expeditioner, but it does open up some really interesting strategies with Weezing because we have Koga. So you can play Mew with Weezing and Budding Expeditioner and just basically pick up your active Pokemon all the time. It's really interesting. Yeah, this card is going to be pretty fun. It's a little bit more niche. I know it sounds crazy, but again, I don't know if it's necessarily worth playing unless a deck is, primarily focused on Mew EX. But I love this card. I'm going to give it a 6. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, actually. 7 out of 10. All right, and now we have Blue, another supporter card. During your opponent's next turn, all of your Pokemon take 10 less damage from attacks from your opponent's active Pokemon. This is interesting. There's not a lot of spread cards in the game. Articuno does spread damage. That new Raichu card does spread damage, but overall, kind of a niche card. I don't think it's really worth playing in a lot of scenarios. It could be good for sure. And I guess if you have room in your deck, it's sort of damage prevention, and there's not really a lot of that going around. So yeah, it's not terrible. But again, we do have Erica, so in like Executor or Venusaur, you wouldn't be running this card. You'd be running Erica's and Potion. You wouldn't necessarily run Blue. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's terrible, but again, it's kind of like, do we really have room to play this in our deck? I'm going to give Blue a 4 out of 10. All right, and the last card in Mythical Island, we have Leaf, another supporter card. During this turn, the retreat cost of your active Pokemon is 2 less. So this is a supporter card that basically works as 2 X speeds, and this is quite good. I actually think this card is going to be particularly very relevant in a lot of different decks, and the one that comes to mind is Mewtwo EX. That deck has a lot of Pokemon with a retreat cost of 2, particularly Mewtwo EX has a retreat cost of 2, so being able to play a supporter card and retreat out for free with a Mew EX is actually, Mewtwo EX is actually really strong. There's other archetypes as well where Pokemon have a retreat cost of 2, that being Articuno, I think, as well. So, excuse me, sorry. So yeah, I think Leaf is actually really good. In general, energy conservation is one of the most important facets of any strategy in Pokemon TCG Pocket. You want to be ahead on energies, and retreating out costs energies a lot of time, so this card is good. I actually do. I think that this card is going to be worth playing in your deck more so than most other cards. So I really do like Leaf. I like free retreat. So I'm going to give Leaf an 8 out of 10. All right, guys. So that is our review of all of the cards in Mythical Island. I'm just going to be showcasing this beautiful immersive Celebi EX card that I pulled in the 100 packs. But anyway, thanks so much, guys, for watching. I've been Maddie from nothing. I've just been Matty T. So yeah, anyway, thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. We're going to be coming with you with a bunch more Pokemon TCG Pocket videos about Mythical Island, about all of the different deck lists. We're going to be building all these different strategies, showcasing all these new decks, all the new cards. I'm really, really excited. I wanted to record this right when the set came out, right after I opened all the packs, which is why this video maybe have seemed a little bit rushed. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. And yeah, have a good one.